So happy Friday. Welcome to Business Basics Friday. I am Safietou Russell, CEO and founder of SDR Consulting, Inc. I hope you're having a good summer so far. It is July of 2022. Time is flying. If you're here live, go ahead and share with us where you're joining from in the comments below. I'm in New York and definitely enjoying the weather. It's going to be 81 today, so hopefully creeping up a little higher. But if you're joining us live, feel free to share where you're joining us from here in the comments, whether you're here on Clubhouse or Facebook Live. So a little bit about why we're here today. Business Basics Friday is a weekly session catered to providing valuable information to business owners. We have a variety of guest speakers that come in to share information and educate you on the many areas that you may manage for your business or your practice. Just as a disclosure, this is strictly for educational information purposes. It doesn't establish a client relationship and does not constitute any legal advice. As far as my background, I've been in the industry 20 years and I'm a CPA and enrolled agent and also have a master's in taxation. SDR Consulting Inc. is a virtual firm based in New York, but we do work with clients all over the US. And we mostly work with business owners, especially those in the mental health profession, specializing in providing tax and accounting services so that we can take that concern away from you and you can focus on your patients and clients and yourself. If you do have questions, feel free to post them in the comments here on the Facebook Live or in the Clubhouse chat, and we will go over them at the end. And so today I want to welcome our guest speaker, Empress Lanice. And I want to thank her again for taking the time to join us today. We're going to be talking a little bit about her experience with why she didn't know she needed help with her tax debt until now. And so Empress, welcome again, and thanks for joining us. Feel free to introduce yourself and we'll get started.
Yes, thank you so much, Safi, for having me on here to share my story. I thought it was great that, you decided for us to have this conversation about tax resolution. And I don't know if you want to introduce or let people know how we met, or you want me to tell the story.
You can tell
Um,
the story. Yeah.
okay, cool. So I actually had, I was looking for a tax accountant for a couple of years because I knew that I didn't pay my taxes for my business from 2018, 2019, 2020. And I was looking for someone because I knew I needed to get it done, but I kind of was like moving slow on it because I was doing my taxes myself prior to. And I got overwhelmed in when it was time to file 2018. And what I did was I did it, but I just didn't press send. And then after that, I just let it go by all these years, right? Because I was just a little bit overwhelmed. But then finally, I was like, no, I need to find someone. So I was actually in the process of hiring someone else. And then I was telling a colleague of mine of what I was dealing with, and it was like, try this person. Someone referred them to me, but you reach out to them and see. And I reached out to Safi, did my 15-minute consultation with her, and I felt comfortable. I felt like, she was knowledgeable and trustworthy. Like I felt that from the jump. And I was like, you know what? Let me go with Safi. And so far, it's been great. It's been, I think, a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been about a year since we've been working together. And the process has been very interesting because this is all new to me. Even though I've been in business for 10 years, I never not filed my taxes before, right? And it happened during a time when I was already just overwhelmed in life and just felt like it was just too much for me to do myself. So I want to thank you, Safi, for taking me on and working with me because I feel like we're getting there. We're still going through the process. We're not at the end yet, but we're most definitely getting closer, and I feel good. I feel relieved. I don't feel so stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'll share my story in a minute of the recent stress where I was I overreacted for no reason. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how we met.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure a lot of business owners or private practice owners may be in your space right now. And so I want to thank you for being transparent and being willing to share because there's a lot of people going through this right now. And the strategy of just kind of pushing it off, because you're stressed about it doesn't work for so long, and at a certain point you have to deal with it. And it's kind of like, people say, yes, you can do this on your own. Yes, you can go to court without a lawyer, but is that probably the best strategy? No, right? When you're
Right.
dealing with the IRS, or when you're dealing with the state, or when you're dealing with the city, if you don't have someone in place who's used to dealing with them, or at least understands what's happened and what needs to be done, you may come across an auditor or an agent who, may capitalize on that. I'll put it like that nicely. You may get bullied along the way. Everyone's in a different place, and remember, they're hired to do a role, and that's what they want to do. They're hired to collect money. They don't care if it's your money's tight right now. Prices are going up, inflation. They don't care if your rent's behind. They don't care if your child's in daycare or private school. These are things. These are real life things that we have to deal with, but the IRS and the state in New York City's job is to collect the money owed to them, rightfully so, right? The goal is to be proactive and minimize that amount, but nonetheless, it is what it is. The main thing is that you figured out what you needed to do and you took action. That's all I
Mhm.
could recommend. Anyone in this position right now, you may be overwhelmed, but you want to take action. You have to take action at some point. And most people get to this point where um, yes, COVID has kind of slowed down the IRS and some of the state and government agencies, but they're definitely picking up. So you probably have a stack of mail sitting there waiting to be opened.
Mhm.
Please open the mail. Just take the first step, open the mail, right? And do your best to read the letters. I know you'll share a little bit about that. Read the letters, try to understand what's going on. Um, they only are going to get more aggressive, right? To the point where now they're going in your account. And that's when they really get people's attention, right? So they kind of start with the letters just to warn you, hey, hello, we need to resolve this. Okay, hello, you're ignoring me. Now the letters are getting more aggressive. Okay, now we have to contact, your employer. Now we have to contact your bank. Now we have to contact your friends, your family. It gets to that point, and they have the authority to do so. So it's not meant to scare you, but just to let you know this doesn't happen overnight. It is a process. The state, the IRS gives you different time frames to try to resolve the stuff before they get to that point. But nonetheless, it is something that needs to be addressed sooner than later, so that you can sleep at night, so that you can continue to run your business and move forward, have that fresh start, as people talk about.
Yes, yes. And just to address reading the letters, so I was getting a bunch of them, right? Because it was 3 years that I didn't file any of my taxes. And and then also, mind you, I moved. So I still have my business in New York, but I'm also, in New Jersey. So I don't get to my mail right away.
Okay.
So I do have someone that checks the mail for me, and they normally like let me know what's in the mail. But I was getting so many of these letters. I was just like, okay, just tell me later. Like, I'm not trying to worry about that because I was in school running the business. I was in other courses that I was taking, and I was just like, okay, I can't put my mind on this, right? So that was my process. That was what's happening in my mind.
Mm,
But now looking back, because like me and Safi, we just actually came to a certain point where I was like, oh, I overreacted. Because I could have actually been complete with this a lot sooner. Um, read those letters because I was freaking out thinking that I had to pay a certain amount every year. And that was not the case at all. Like that's what actually had me stall it even longer because I'm like, where am I getting this money from? How am I going to do it?
mm,
So a lot of us we go through that, right? Where we're like kind of freaking out in our heads. And it's valid, it's very valid, but it's just like taking the time.
right.
And it wasn't until I just came from vacation. And it wasn't until I actually took the time to read these letters that I've been getting for the past couple of months. And I realized that it was like, oh, that's it, that's not bad. Okay, I can do this.
Hmm.
So I just want to recommend, like, when you get these letters, don't freak out. Take the time and then also go through it with your tax, accountant or professional. So
Right.
that was the thing that I didn't do necessarily with Safi. Even though we've been like working on it, I didn't say, hey, I'm freaking out. This, like, I don't understand, right?
Mm,
it wasn't until after the fact I was like, okay, I get it now, but let's go through this step by step. And now my mind is much clearer, and I'm like understanding what's actually really going on. That now we actually have a plan in place that I can see that this will be resolved within like the next month or two,
Right.
where
Right.
I've kind of prolonged it for all
Mm,
these months,
mm,
which actually led to what Safi mentioned, where they about to go into your accounts, right? So that was about to happen to me, where they was about to go into my account and take out the money, which technically I didn't have any money in there for them to take. But but I happened to decide during my vacation to read one of the letters, and it literally had the due date for the money that's coming up. And immediately I reached out to Safi on 4th of July. So this all happened, it's all fresh. This was not long ago.
right.
I reached out to Safi on 4th of July and I said, hey, I got this letter. When you get a chance, just like let me know what I need to do. And then she's like, you know, I'm gonna get back to you. I'll follow up with you tomorrow. And she did just that. She was immediately in action for me. And that's why I appreciate and thankful for her, because she could have delayed that because coming back to the work week from 4th of July, have all these other clients that you gotta take care of.
Right.
But she most definitely put myself as a priority to get this information of what I needed to do,
Mm,
and to prevent for them to taking the money out of my bank account,
mhm,
and where that could have been even worse, right? So Safi pretty much walked me through the process, but just reading those letters, because
mhm.
if I decided to not read those letters and just continue to ignore them, I would have been so confused or even more stressed of why my account is at a negative balance of so much money, and where it could have been prevented. And
Yeah.
then, like, the solution that she was able to get for me to put in place isn't so bad. It's actually pretty doable, where I could have actually have done it
Mm,
a long time ago, but I was just so stressed
yeah.
about whole like made up picture, I'll say, that I created for myself.
Yeah, and it's there's a lot of stresses, right? So we're already dealing with life, and then you get in these letters, and like you said, how am I going to pay it? So you kind of just put it on the back burner. But some of those letters are very time sensitive, like you mentioned. You get the letter, and you're like, oh crap, I have 5 days to figure this out. And if you don't know what you're doing, you don't even know who to call. You're on a hold forever. You can't get through. So as professionals, we have ways to get through some, in most cases, pretty quickly. We know who to speak to. We know what to ask for, and we can get it resolved so that, yes, you're going to pay the money, but, maybe you don't get it pulled all out of your account at one time and cause a hardship. So definitely some of those letters are time sensitive, and that's why you want to open them as well. So just to kind of take you through the tax resolution process, what it actually is, right? Tax resolution is pretty much working on resolving a debt or maybe some unfiled returns. And the first step of it in all cases is always the analysis, because regardless if you've called the IRS on your own or regardless of the stack of notices that you have, there's we still have to take a step back, speak to the IRS or state or city, find out the status of your account, what's happened, what do you owe, what stage of collection you're in, how aggressive are they right now, do you have an auditor assigned, who's the right department to speak to, enforcement agent, whatever. So analysis, right? Everything starts there. Analysis also involves reviewing your transcripts. So what, IRS and state have something called transcripts, which is pretty much your account history. So your previous filing history, what returns are missing, what returns have balances, what years have balances, what type of tax do you owe, payroll taxes, penalties on businesses, late, balances on personal filing. Um, also, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, uh, when does your debt expire? Very important. So the IRS and state have 10 years. I'm sorry, the IRS has 10 years to collect on the debt, and that date can move around with different, things that can happen with your account. But overall, they have 10 years. The states can vary per state. Some are endless, some are, about the same. So there's a timeline on your debt too. So all of that's a part of the analysis. Step two, financial ability to repay. You know, the IRS is probably a little bit more friendly than some of the states and cities in terms of having a structured way that you can qualify for different resolution options. So do you need a standard payment plan? Can you afford that? If not, you may need a modified or a partial pay installment agreement. Or maybe you can actually prove you're in a hardship and you need like a temporary hold on your account. Or maybe you even qualify for a reduced payment altogether. Those are the things we would look at when doing a financial analysis. But keep in mind, financial analysis means everything on the table, all accounts, all statements, all business activity, all money movement, right? So you have to be ready to put all that on the table. And then based on the IRS's standards will determine on paper if what you qualify for, right? So if you can full pay, you may not have to go through that step, but if you feel like you can't and you need some type of workaround, mostly dealing with the IRS, then that's part of the analysis step. Next up, compliance. So in that analysis step, we're going to find out if you're missing returns. Those returns need to be filed, whatever they are, payroll, personal filings, business filings. Did you file the right return? You know, a lot of times people come to me and they are, oh, I'm an LLC, and you have a corporation in your name, like you're an Inc., but you were telling me you're an LLC. They're not the same, right? The filings are not the same. What does the IRS have you as, and is that correct? And how have you been filing in the past? So that's correction of returns. Filing missing returns. Most times you can't get into a payment plan or any type of arrangement if you have missing returns. So that has to be done in a compliance stage. And then resolution, right? So in that order, we can't just jump in and say, hey, yeah, pay me $10,000 and we're going to wipe your debt away, or you're going to pay 30% of what you owe. Impossible without doing those other steps, because how would we know what you qualify for according to the standards set by the IRS, state, or city? So in those, when you're getting those letters, that's the next step. We're going to review the letters, we're going to review your account, we're going to review your financial ability to pay, and then work towards resolution. And this is why, if there's a time sensitivity on those letters, obviously we can't do all that in 3-4 days, right? You have to do what we can, but that's why it's really important to just open them and just deal with it, accordingly. Work with a professional to help keep that stress level down, and choose your professional wisely. Not everyone can do tax resolution, right? It's not something that I've done 20 years. I have more experience in tax and accounting side, but the resolution probably about the last 5 or 6 years. And it's always a learning process. But, I have colleagues that have been doing this 20 years. So it's always great to have a resource. But not every CPA, not every tax professional knows how to do tax resolution. So you want to definitely choose your professional wisely.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that because like when I came to you, I just was like, I need to file my 3 years of taxes at the end, because this has been, I guess, like a 2 year process. Actually, it's been more than a year.
Yep.
That I said I came to you just to file my taxes, but didn't know all of these other parts that were needed, right? So, which is why it also took a little while to get that together, because you had to go through my bookkeeping to make sure that my numbers were accurate, and making sure that we filed it appropriately, accurately for those years.
Right.
So like I'm thinking like, okay, here's my QuickBooks or my data, but didn't know like it needed to be cleaned up. I didn't know it needed to be organized and structured in a certain way. And even though I did my own taxes in the past, I used a different system then, right? I wasn't necessarily using QuickBooks.
Mm.
So I didn't know that there was so much more in depth to it.
Right.
And then even like the how you mentioned about payroll, right? I didn't know that that needed to be done first
Mm.
in order for us to come with a payment plan to
Mm.
clear the debt that I had for the other,
Right.
tax years. And then I also didn't know about all of the different penalty fees, right? So the penalty fees weren't bad, even though I thought it was extremely like bad in the beginning, because I thought it was a certain amount, but realizing that it was that plus the taxes that I owed, I was just freaking out.
Mm.
But there's penalty fees for each year, and I didn't know that. Like in my mind, when I didn't file that first initial time, I was like, oh, I normally don't owe anything, so I'll be okay, because my business wasn't making that much money at that time.
Mm.
And then it wasn't until me actually taking the time to read the documents and just seeing like, okay, this is what's going on. And
Right.
then there's also the New York, for me, it was New York City, New York State, and the IRS.
Right.
Right. So I'm just thinking that it's just one thing.
Right.
That's that. This will be done quick. No, it was a whole process. So
Right.
that's why I was like, I had no idea
Mm.
that I needed tax resolution
Mm-hmm.
because I was just coming in, just trying to file the last, at that time, the last 3 years of my taxes.
Right.
But there's so many different components to this. So I want to recommend to those who are listening or watching that to take care of these things, right? Make sure your bookkeeping is in order. Like that's
Mm.
something that I'm learning from Safi that is very important is your bookkeeping because your bookkeeping will save you.
Yep.
So I'm just keeping that in order, whatever system you use, whether it's QuickBooks or something else, or just doing it old fashioned way, Excel sheet or Google Sheets, like just keeping track of everything because that will be very helpful when doing your taxes
Yep.
or getting audited or whatever comes up for your situation and revolving around tax resolution. Because I know my story is one way, but for
Mm-hmm.
somebody else, it might be a little bit different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm glad you touched on that because when you're a business owner, um, that's the starting point of your taxes, your bookkeeping, right? And oftentimes I come across many business owners, private practice owners who their taxes was done. They don't know anything about where the numbers came from. They were not asked any questions, but yet they sign off on that return. Just know you are responsible for that return, regardless of who prepared it. So choose wisely with your professionals, but also make sure you ask questions. Make sure you're aware of what's going on. Um, Bookkeeping can be is tedious, it's very detailed. You got to pretty much track every transaction. But how else would you know what your total income was, what your deductions are, what type of deductions you had? Are they deductible? Is it 100% deductible? If all those things aren't broken out, your tax return can't be prepared properly. And if those questions aren't asked, where's that information coming from, right? There's a difference between, I'm going to do a topic on this, but there's a difference between preparation, tax planning, and tax resolution. And stay tuned for that. But tax resolution is not those other two things, right? It's what happens after the fact, after those things have occurred. But it starts with your bookkeeping. And so if your bookkeeping is a mess, it does prevent proper tax preparation. It prevents proper tax planning. It prevents tax resolution or can delay tax resolution because when they want to see financials, right? If you're being audited, when they want to see financials of a business and you don't have any, the doors are wide open. Now they start looking at all your accounts. Oh, you're commingling. I want to see your personal accounts too, right? So it just opens up the doors. If you want to get financing, if you need a loan, I need statements, I need financials. And once again, you're commingling, it becomes a mess. So most people are in their business and they're in the business, running it and doing the day-to-day activities, and they kind of leave some of these things on the back burner. So you got to kind of evaluate, okay, if I can't do it, if I don't have the time to do it, I need to bring in someone who can. I need to allocate that money so that I can focus on building my business and they can focus on getting me cleaned up and back on track. Right. And so definitely that was a key point with being in business is getting your bookkeeping in order. It doesn't matter what income you are making or not, or if you only have expenses, it all counts, right? When we go to do a tax return, you cannot, sending bank statements is not something that's done at tax preparation time. That's something that should be done throughout the year prior when your bookkeeping is getting up and running. For those who are trying to do both at the same time, you're really having a disservice done for you at that time because in the stress of tax season, you really shouldn't be trying to actually backtrack a whole year of what happened. Makes
I
sense?
agree. And that was me at one point. Because when I started, I was, self doing everything. And I think most entrepreneurs, we do everything ourselves, right?
Yep.
In my early days, I did have someone that was helping me. They were actually like learning in school, going for all this. I was like, okay, you can like work on this with me.
Mm.
And with now she's, doing great in tax and accounting. But with that, after she moved on, I started going back to doing it myself, right? And trying to figure it out. And now my business is picking up a little bit more than when I first started. So I'm thinking that I can still manage it the way that I was doing it in the beginning. And in the year that I didn't file, even though I had everything tracked, I was ready to press send. I just didn't do it because I wanted to overlook. Like now I'm like being like very tedious and like, okay, let me look again, let me make sure. And then I got overwhelmed and just never did it. Right.
Right. Right.
And going forward, I just never, you know what? Here's what happened. I didn't know what I needed to do
Mm,
to file those taxes for 2018 for me to get back on track. So
mm,
instead of me um, finding, even though I was looking, I just didn't know who to trust, right? That's another factor.
right.
But instead of me trying to get that rectified immediately,
Mm,
I just let the years go by because I was like, well, I'm not really making any money. So I should be
right.
okay. I shouldn't have any penalties, or I wasn't even thinking of penalties, honestly. I was
Right.
like, I should be good. I could fix this later.
Right. Right.
And it wasn't until 2020, well, the end of 2019, and I saw my business was picking up.
Mm,
And then going to 2020, and I saw how much my business grew within the first quarter. I was like, no, I need to get this done ASAP because I
mm,
don't know what's going to happen. I don't know all the rules and laws
right.
that's, part of this. So let me find someone. And God brought me to Safi, and she's been helping me ever since.
Mhm,
But with that is, if you can in your early stages, hire someone, or even if it's someone like how I did. I had a friend that was helping me. So I was actually good my first couple of years of business.
mm,
But just like having someone dedicated to just doing that, but most importantly, a professional to do that because they know all the laws, the rules, what needs to be done, how to
mhm,
categorize them properly, like what goes under entertainment, what goes under food, what goes under, all these different things, right?
right.
So
Right.
like even when I started driving, I didn't know that I can track my mileage. Right? That was something I had no idea until later
Right.
in driving. So hire a professional, or even I think like professionals do consultations. So even just having a
Mhm,
consultation and asking questions, so
mhm,
that if you are doing it yourself, you just having that guidance to
right.
with you throughout that process, and just do it consistently if you can't afford to have them
Right.
do it full time. And I believe, Safi, you provide a service where you teach people, right, how
Mm.
to do their bookkeeping.
Yeah, so definitely we, work with, businesses and private practices at different stages, right? So some of them are in the startup phase, some of them are more established, and they may need different levels of support. And so we have support, in place for startups, established companies, and growing companies. And so for the startups, my suggestion is at minimum to get assistance with helping you get your system set up and some basic training. So we pretty much use QuickBooks Online almost exclusively when it comes to getting, the bookkeeping in place ahead of time. And so we will help with setting it up and doing a basic training for you across the board. That's for everybody, whether they have a monthly package or not, because you still should know the basics of the program and how to go in and run reports and review things. Um, so for those who don't have the budget to maintain a monthly or quarterly package, then yes, we will give them guidance. They'll do it themselves. And then we do recommend that we touch base at least quarterly, maybe semi-annually, to just do a checkup on what you're doing and let you know, hey, you know what? It's going to cost you more for cleanup. Let's just transition. Or you're doing great. Here's a couple of suggestions for moving forward. So yeah, definitely we do offer that. When it gets to the point where the cleanup is more than just having a monthly package, then it makes sense to just transition at that point. But definitely, we know people are coming in at different places, and if you're if you are a startup and you are willing to make that investment properly to work with a professional, then we're definitely open to doing that. And some people do a great job. Some people are like, this is numbers make me crazy, numbers make me anxious, which is totally understandable and okay. So then you should definitely not do that. Let someone else handle that so you can focus on what you do best. Definitely. Yeah. So if there are any questions, if anyone wants to share anything, feel free to go ahead and drop that into the Clubhouse chat here or comments live. On Facebook. We're going to go ahead and wrap up in a few minutes, but I think this was definitely helpful, Empress, to share your experience, the things that were holding you back, that may be holding others back, and kind of what action steps to take First thing, open those letters. Second thing, call a professional. We definitely offer tax resolution services here at SDR Consulting Inc. But even if you're in the starting phases and you don't want to get to this point, then we want to get you, on track with doing things properly from the beginning. And if you've made a mess, we're here to help you clean it up. But it definitely does take a consistent effort. It takes some investment. And it takes responsiveness for sure. You want to be ready to follow the recommended steps, because some of these things are time sensitive, but it's all doable. And there are things in place to help you financially in terms of repaying, like those options I mentioned. So don't feel like, oh my God, I can't pay this, I'm just going to ignore it. Let's see if you qualify for some of those other options where you can minimize how much you pay back for now until you get back on your feet. Make sense? Anything you
Yes,
want to share in closing?
that is so true. Like Safi said, open the letters, and go through it with fear,
Mhm,
right? Go through it with fear. So if you are feeling, afraid or anxious or any of those feelings, still go through it. Like, even if it's like finding the right person, the right tax professional, keep searching, keep looking,
mhm,
until you feel comfortable, but don't let it like go by where there's a whole year or 2 years or 3 years like I did, and let that time go by to not get it done. So keep looking, because you don't want those penalties. Because I'm sure if I had done it a lot sooner,
mhm,
I probably wouldn't have had as much penalties that I have right now.
mhm,
But this is, a lesson learned. And of course, I would have never met Safi. And she's been awesome. So I guess for my story, I had to go through this. But um I just recommend to just get on it right away, because you don't want to go through this, because the
mhm,
feeling that I got when I got that letter where they said they were about to take money out of my account that didn't have money in it anyways,
mhm.
I was just like, this can't happen. Because then what would they do next? Like, I had asked Safi, I was like, so if they do attempt, what would they do next? And she said that they're going to try all of your accounts. And like how she mentioned earlier, they'll probably call your family, your friends, whoever, to like figure out how to get the money from you. So
Pretty
just try to
much.
take care of it as soon as possible.
Pretty
And
pretty much. It's interesting because people feel like they can hide their accounts, from the IRS or state and city, and just know they have a way to find out. It may take them time, but they have a way to find out. And so, just, you just don't want to ignore it. Pretty much you want to buckle down, take care of it, and one step at a time. One step at a time, yeah, so that you can feel comfortable and not overwhelmed. But it is going to take a consistent effort. So, thank you again for sharing your story. I'm sure it was helpful to many out there. And if you're looking for assistance, in the tax resolution space, feel free to connect with me. I offer a 15-minute, just an introductory call, just so we can get better acquainted, get a feel for each other, and get an overview of what's going on. And then from there, we'll discuss, the analysis step, which is always step one, and what that looks like for you specifically. All right. And if you're looking to get started fresh so that you don't end up in this picture, or if you want to clean up other things before you get to the point where you need tax resolution, feel free to reach out as well. So you can find SDR Consulting online at sdrconsultinginc.com, on social media at SDR Consulting, and also by phone 516-255-6603. And I can't finish without, saying that Empress Lanice has been a wonder to work with, in addition to helping me out, right? So we have had a fortunate chance to work together in helping me with my social media, with my different, content creation and graphics and things of that nature. And so I can't leave without having you share a little bit about that, Impress, if you don't mind, because for me, traditional accountants, right? Yes, I have some personality, but it's not my forte, right? It's not my forte to be creative in that way, other than with spreadsheets and so on, and a little bit of makeup. So content creation. I'm thankful she stepped in to help me with that, and we've been able to work together. So, Empress, go ahead and close out with that.
yes, by the way, Safi has so much personality. I don't know if you've seen her TikTok videos of her dancing and just having fun. So she is a natural at this.
Thank you.
Um, but yes, I am Empress Lanice, the founder of Empress Lanice Public Relations Agency, and we do help our clients build their online presence. And like for Safi, we do social media management for her, and we're getting her more visible and seen as why you guys see her now here on SDR Business Basics Fridays. And you can reach me at elpragency.net. Once again, that's elpragency.net. Or you can follow me on social media, Empress Lanice PR Agency, and just look for me there and you'll find all of my stuff. And you can DM me as well if you would like. Thank you so much, Safi.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks again, Jessica. Everyone, have a great weekend. Feel free to reshare this with a friend who may be in need. And join us again next Friday. We'll be back for Business Basics Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern. So invite a friend, and also the replay will be available here on the Facebook Live page, as well as it'll be on our podcast shortly as well. And SDR Business Basics, you can find that on most of your streaming apps available out there. All right, everyone, take care, stay safe, and enjoy the summer. Thanks again. Bye-bye.